The Tale of 105. One night, Thomas woke to a start as he looked around and gasped. There, standing by the sheds, was a brown tank engine. He was shrouded in darkness. The only thing illuminating the shape of an engine was the lone taillight sitting on his bunker. And the number 105. Thomas rattled and shaked at the sight he saw. He shut his eyes tight. After some time had passed, he opened his eyes and looked around. The engine was gone, as if it vanished into thin air. The next day, Mac and Josh came down to Thomas's branch line. After making it to the station, they headed to the yard to fill up on water. Oh, hey Mac. Hey Josh. Hello, Thomas. Fine day for a run, isn't it? I guess you can say so. I have a question for you two, however. Have you two seen a brown tank engine arriving on the railway last night? It's 105. Hey, what, Thomas? Meet us at Elsbridge tonight and we'll tell you who he is. Just don't tell anyone else where you are, okay? Alright. And Thomas would meet the twins later that night. Thank you for coming, Thomas. I believe Mac has to tell you something about 105. You see, Thomas, he's our brother. Your what? Yes, from our days on the London, Brighton, and South Coast Railway. You see, he suffered an accident before we arrived here on Sodor. Would you mind telling me? It was years ago, but I guess we can. This was the story the Garding twins told. During their days in Green, there were 3 tank engines in the shed. There was them and their brother 105. He would boast to the other engines about his superiority to them, but they ignored him and went on with their work, which left him fuming to no end. They tried to warn him, but he took no notice. You see, the 3 tank engines were experimental engines. They were built to design different features for the E2 classes, which would come later. Occasionally, they'd have to double-head heavy goods trains, as they didn't have enough power for one engine to do it alone. The Garding twins pulled trucks, shunted trucks, and pulled mixed traffic trains. 105 was built to pull express trains. And it was for this reason alone he was arrogant, like Gordon, for example. His comeuppance came after he was rebuilt to burn oil using one of his water tanks to source it. This would cause a lot of problems for the crew, however, as they had to learn how to use the atomizer and not to shovel coal into the firebox. They were planning to remove it in November, but this would never happen. October 29th, 1913. Mark was showing Josh how to shunt in the yards, when suddenly 105 came screaming in, his face red as James's paint, as he raced in and he raced out of sight. Mac and Josh knew what would happen to the train once it reached the bridge, for it had collapsed a week earlier. The audience, you, knows what's gonna happen next, don't you? It was a couple days before they could arrange for trucks to pick up the remains of 105 and his trains. The Garding twins had to commit to this as their experiment that conducted with them had ended with 105's crash on October 30th. And as E2 started to roll out in 1914, there became less and less use for the experimental E0s as they were known. So they were sold along with Thomas to the Northwestern Railway in 1916. However, on nights the moon doesn't shine, you can see a lone taillight shining in the distance. And you can hear puffing as he races around the United Kingdom, looking for souls to take with him. As the story ended, Thomas looked down at his buffers and back at the twins with empathy. He had heard the story before, during his days with the LB and SC, but never heard the engine's name till now. The next day, Thomas, Annie, and Clarabelle headed back down their branch line, with Thomas to think a lot about. You think 105's coming for us, Mac? I'm not sure, Josh, but if he does, we'll be ready for him. Mac and Josh would see their long-lost brother, because you see, the night after, 105 would appear right by their shed. Illuminating him would be his lone taillight. His face was twisted. The twins were horrified. However, 105's face would curl and twist into a face that showed empathy. Then spoke. Mac, Josh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I treated you the way I did in life, and I'm sorry I treated you the way I did before my crash. It was rude and unempathetic of me to do so. I hope you can forgive me. Then Josh spoke. It's alright, 105. We forgive you. Thank you, he said as he faded into the night. They were sad that their brother had to go, but they were thankful that he was now at peace. Aren't you?